The Fan.
Good afternoon. Hey, welcome in. Happy Super Week Wednesday. It's got a good little ring to it there.
Maybe we'll talk football today.
A little Super Weeky Wednesday. No, dude, the Blazers seem to not want to lose. 53-29, still in play.
Still in play.
I said it yesterday, man. It could happen. Who are we to say? 53-29 is not going to happen.
Mathematically possible.
Mathematically, it is in the cards. We're going to talk a lot about the Blazers, not just the hot streak, winners of 9 of the last 10. The NBA's trade deadline, it will expire 24 hours from now?
23 hours and 57 minutes.
Yeah. And there's going to be a lot on there. Yeah, it's signing day today. That's why if it sounds a little different today, I am down in Eugene. This is back to our Eugene shows. This is the one-off though, because it's National Signing Day across college football. But this one is more of like, let's celebrate what happened 2 months ago, because most guys signed 2 months ago in December now. It's not. It's completely different than what we're used to. But I was down here today, earlier this morning, did a signing day show. If you missed it, you can check it out on the Go Ducks YouTube or Oregon Football's Twitter account and Facebook page. It's all on there. We talked with Marshall Malco, the chief of staff, offensive coordinator Will Stein, defensive coordinator Tosh Lapoy, and head coach Dan Lanning, breaking down the recruiting class for 2025 and what they're looking at in 2026. And some interesting stuff that I think we can dive into a little bit later, because there's something that was taken out of one of our interviews that we did with Marshall Malco, the chief of staff, that is starting to make the rounds. And it's pretty significant when you think of how far football has dropped off and is now coming back up on the West Coast. So we'll touch on that a little bit later, because it is a busy day. It's a Wrestling Wednesday, huh?
It is.
Do we know who won Royal Rumble?
No, I saw people watching it on their phones this weekend at the game. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, you can do it on Netflix now, huh?
Yeah. I saw. I was like, what you watching there?
Actually, I think the Royal Rumble was on Peacock.
Was it Peacock?
Yeah.
Okay, one.
I know Raw is on Netflix on Monday nights, but this one I think was on Peacock.
Because
I actually sought it out for a couple of minutes, and then I spent like 2 minutes on it, and it was the early goings on of the ladies portion of the Royal Rumble, which. Let's face it, I would have watched a few minutes, but the wife was hovering around. So it's like, all right, nothing to see here.
Nope.
Okay.
Keep it moving.
How many? I'm going through here. Royal Rumble winners. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Jey Uso was the Royal Rumble winner this year.
Mm-hmm.
Charlotte Flair, the ladies Royal Rumble winner.
Indeed.
Daughter of Ric Flair. When is the most recent Royal Rumble winner you can?
Oh, no. So far back.
So far back?
So far back.
Undertaker?
Yeah, it's 20 years. Like,
Yeah.
I can't, like, I'm struggling to remember NBA champions at this point, year by year. I'm like, oh, that's right, that was this year. Like, so, like, which is actually messed up, because I used to know, like, all of the useless stuff, like who won what, when, where, how, why.
Sure.
COVID scrambled all that for me and made those dates completely and totally irrelevant.
Like you getting COVID, or
no, like that COVID period. That period.
Yeah.
Like now, like dates. Like, no, that was 2020. Brother, that was 2012. Wait, what? You know, like that kind of thing. Like I don't know what happened. My ability to process all of it just no longer works.
Yeah, I'm lost on a lot of it, but it's a lot of the same names, you know. Cody Rhodes won it 2 years in a row, 24 and 23. That's cool. Dusty Rhodes' kid.
Would that be Gold Dust?
Dusty Rhodes?
Well, no, Cody, his kid.
Cody Rhodes?
I believe was Gold Dust.
He was Gold Dust? Was he really?
I want to say. I mean, I know Gold Dust, I'm pretty sure, was Dusty Rhodes' offspring.
Yeah. Okay. He was Stardust.
No, there's a dust in there. Here you go.
Stardust. Stardust was Cody Rhodes. There was a Rhodes offspring, you say, that was?
Dustin Rhodes was
Dustin
Gold
Rhodes.
Dust. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yes.
All
See,
right.
so I wasn't entirely wrong.
Yeah, there we go.
Just had the wrong offspring.
Yeah, no, you just you're mixing him up with obviously Country Roads.
Yeah.
Oh, John Denver. Let's go. West Virginia.
He's full of S, man.
It's almost heaven. All right. Well, it is Wrestling Wednesday. Let's go. Jey Uso. He won.
Yeah.
Congrats, Jay. And that's a talking wrestling, huh?
That's all I got.
All right.
I got nothing.
I used to know all that stuff too. Did you see? You said about NBA champions, and when you said I used to be able to name all of them. Have you seen the viral video that's been going around?
The backwards counter.
Yeah. Well, so for those who haven't seen it, there was a kid who his college professor said, if you can name in order every single NBA champion, you don't have to take the test. You get an immediate A. And he started with the Celtics this past year, and he went backwards all the way to 1947
and nailed it,
and got every single one.
He doesn't have the trains version. He has the NBA championships version.
That's crazy, man. And as I'm looking at like the old Royal Rumble winners now, there was a time where I could have done that same thing with Royal Rumble winners, but it would have ended like in 2000.
Yeah. No, 100%. That's what I'm saying. Like it's at least 20 years back.
Yeah, I couldn't. There's no way I could have done that. No way I could have done that.
But then again, somehow, like, John Cena and The Rock will somehow keep coming back. So,
well, yeah. I think where they lost me was when Vince McMahon won.
I was led to believe this is going to be John Cena's final Royal Rumble.
Come on.
Is that true?
I don't know.
Is that true?
His body.
That's what I was led to believe.
His body looked like he was maybe. Yeah. I don't think you.
I was led to believe there'd be pie and punch.
Yeah, I don't think you do a whole cycle just for one Royal Rumble.
I'll tell you what, that was one heck of a Cartman, Rust.
That was pretty good. Yeah.
That was a really good Cartman.
I did when I went back to school in my speech and diction class, we had to do a certain presentation involving 3 different like dialects or not even necessarily dialects, voices, what have you. And I started out with Cartman doing Rapper's Delight.
Oh God. See, if you did that now on TikTok.
No, wait. I need that right now on radio and YouTube and Twitch. As you were, Russ. I know you know all the words, and I just heard the Cartman voice. I know that this can happen.
Look, I said a hip, a hop, a hip, a hip, hip, hop, and you don't stop. And rock it to the bam, bam, boogie, so up, jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie to me. Yeah, I want some cheesy poofs.
Putting that on TikTok is like people do this for a living, right? Have you seen the guy that plays the guitar and sings songs as Cartman? No, this guy has like a bajillion followers on TikTok.
Yeah.
Like, dude,
you're missing your monetization window.
Rust, we need to dress you as Cartman, and we need you to do this.
Gotta hit you guys.
We don't have a big TikTok budget at the fan.
Which by not big means 0.
Yeah, we have none. But if I'll get you a Temu Eric Cartman costume, and we could shave your face. And buddy, I need this to happen. Put you in the beanie and the red coat, and just have you sing. Just anything. Rapper's Delight. I want more of this content.
Put some sugar on me.
There we go. I want your Blazers not tanking and you freaking out takes as Eric Cartman on social media. We're just going to keep that, and we're going to put it in the back closet, and anytime there's a Rust take, it's going to be Rust as Eric Cartman doing it.
Or we do that, or the Blazers broadcasting theme song.
Yeah, instead of bump back music, we need Russ just doing this for a show, his different Cartman tunes. Oh my gosh. Look at that. What a little gift. What a little gift we just got right there.
We do love it.
All right. Let's get the show on the road. We got a ton that we need to get to from the NBA's trade deadline, as we said, the hometown team, National Signing Day, Super Bowl 59 is right around the corner. There's a ton that we need to get to, and let's get to it because the Portland Trail Blazers have won 9 of their last 10 games. There is no other way to put it. They are the hottest team in the NBA right now. Winners of 9 of their last 10. No other team has done that. Currently, they have the longest longest active winning streak in the NBA, correct?
Yes.
That 5 games.
5 games.
But
and they
at
won
5
9
games,
10.
is that really impressive?
No, I mean, it's the longest winning streak they've had in 4 years.
I mean, that's the most impressive part for them.
Yeah.
But in
so,
terms of like the league,
not really, but
I mean, come on.
I mean, again, their only loss in there is a loss to the Thunder. Otherwise, they would have won,
10 straight.
You know, Rust, if you're going to talk about peeing in Cheerios, at least do it in the Cartman voice, all right? Like,
Hey, listen, I'm going to come pee all over your Cheerios.
I think it's morphing. I love it. Let's get to it, though, because last night, if you are watching this Portland Trailblazers team, you are watching a fun brand of basketball, and there's no other way to put it. It is a good brand of basketball they are playing right now, and the young guys continue to shine. Danny and Dusty on the Fan. Portland Trail Blazers did it again, my man. They go on the second of a back-to-back, and they beat the Indiana Pacers, which currently Indiana sits as the 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. But the Blazers end up knocking off Indiana 112-89 for their 5th consecutive win and their 9th win in their last 10 games.
Yeah, the Indiana Pacers came in as one of the hotter teams in the NBA. They're the 4th in the Eastern Conference. I believe they're
4 straight wins, right?
4 straight wins, and I think they were 8-2 in their last 10. Yeah, because they're 7-3 in their last 10 now. So, one of the hotter teams in the league. Both teams coming off a back-to-back. The Utah to Portland back-to-back, not one of the worst ones in the league. It is if you're Indiana, Chicago, Cleveland, who has to drive or fly 45 minutes basically everywhere to play anyone. It's a little bit longer of a flight, but if you're Portland, Utah is one of your closest teams. So it's not like it's the most brutal back-to-back that exists in the league.
Well, plus you get an hour.
There you go.
Time travel.
That's how it works. You go through the wormhole, otherwise known as Utah. But the Blazers coming off an overtime win in which, Toumani Camara plays 46 minutes. D.A. plays 42 minutes. Ant and Jeremy both play 40 minutes. And you get stellar performances up and down, really from everyone. Toumani Camara, again, continues to be, I mentioned this on the postgame last night, the question was, could he be or is he becoming the heart and soul? Like, he is the heart and soul.
I love him.
Toumani Camara is the heart and soul of the team right now.
I love him so much.
Everything about what he does, it's not just the defense and effort and intensity, it's that it's always up. And I very much dislike Dylan Brooks, like with the fiery passion of 1,000 Suns. But with the thing that I always give him credit for is that his work rate is always sky high. And it's so high that if you don't match that level of intensity, you stand out and you look suspect at all turns. That's why when you see, a month ago, 6 weeks ago, Scoot Henderson or Shaedon Sharpe getting thrown on the bench, like when they were standing, why their defense looks so bad is because on one side of the court, you're seeing Toumani Camara make every rotation, go absolutely crazy, pick up a guy full court, and then you see this, lackadaisical effort and getting lost in the play.
Yeah.
And it stands out like a sore thumb. I think the other thing that kind of came out of last night is that DeAndre Ayton, despite foul trouble, despite not getting all of his touches, despite not being the guy, deferred last night in multiple ways.
Engaged.
He stayed engaged, and he had a couple plays, he jumped a passing lane, got a steal, and took off and dunked. Like, I don't think I've ever seen him do that. Like, it was just like, wait, what? And then he gets underneath and gets 2 guys on him and then gets a little pump fake and does a little drop pass to Toumani Camara for a layup. And I'm like, oh, usually DA right there, that ball's going up no matter what. And then he picks up that 4th foul, right, or late in the second quarter. Real quick, that foul's a stupid call. It's never called a foul. It's almost always called a jump ball. It is a foul, but it's never called a foul. For those that are wondering, I'm talking about 2 guys dive for a loose ball. One of them ends up on top of the other, but they're both holding the ball. They usually just call it a tie-up. To give him his 4th foul right there is kind of weak, but whatever. It actually ends up setting up the story. Chauncey Billups in the postgame says he goes to DeAndre Ayton at halftime and says, look, I'm going to start Rob in the second half. I need to do that because I don't want you to have to play timid out there with 4 fouls. And Chauncey says that DA is like, no, I got you. Rob's got this. We're good. And DA didn't throw a fit. He was on the bench, waving the towel, pumping his fist, and then he came in and helped close the game out.
Wow.
Like the buy-in is just there. And I think, Dusty, so often we talk about being strong up the middle in football or soccer. Like, the Blazers are strong up the middle now with DeAndre Ayton and Toumani Camara, and it allows everything else to kind of flow off that. And their defense, I want to say over the last 8 games now, it's the number 1 the number 1 defense in the league, which is insane to think about, with the number 6 offense, and with a number 1 net rating now. It's just like, how did this happen? But it's their defense, it's their effort, it's their intensity, it's the stuff they're doing, and turning the Indiana Pacers into a bit of a joke as it turned into Lob City.
Well, yeah, and that lob from Ant to 2.
After breaking his defender's ankles.
Smokes. That was beautiful. I want to go back to Toumani Camara, though, really quick, because you mentioned it, 46 minutes the night before in that win against the Phoenix Suns where the Blazers go to overtime and they have to grind that one out, and he was a big reason for that. He comes back and, look, this is the thing about two, right, is he's not going to be a 20-point-a-night guy, right? But he was efficient, 5 of 7, scores 13 points. But on the defensive end of the floor, nothing that he did is going to really show up in the stat line. He had a block and a steal, right? Those show up. But it's not looking at Toumani Camara's stat line. Look at Tyrese Halliburton's stat line.
Big old bagel.
0 for 3 from the field, 0 points on the game, and he rendered him a facilitator. And that, to me, I think that speaks volumes to what Toumani Camara can do. It's not just doing that to Tyrese Halliburton, who, if we're being honest, Halliburton's numbers are not anywhere where they were prior to him popping his hamstring last year.
No.
Right? But
this is the one drawback of Hallie, is that sometimes he does step back as a scorer.
But there was no wiggle room in a night immediately following Toumani Camara playing 46 minutes and in exerting so much to get over the hump and beat the Phoenix Suns. I think that says a lot about that young man, and that is, he's turning into more and more of an invaluable piece for this Blazers organization. I mean, you can't quantify what he has meant, because you mentioned it, right? This last 10 games, they're first in the NBA net rating, they're first in defense, and they're 6th in offense. And Rust, you said it like, it's only a 5-game winning streak, whatever, right? And that may say something more about the NBA not having an extended winning streak in there. And that's totally reasonable. It's not like they've won 10 games in a row, right? I get that.
And the pushback to this is that, I had a front office member text me, what do you think of the team right now? Like, what's kind of making this happen? And I was like, things are just clicking. There's a lot of that. And he goes, I think you're right, but it also, there's the thing you always have to remember: young, athletic February basketball.
Yep, and they're going through it. I think right now, though, being first in net rating, first in defense, 6th in offense, that's when I say this is a really good stretch of basketball. Consistency is what all good teams have, and the Blazers are showing right now. This is a good, litmus test of, all right, how consistent can it be and how long can you take it out? The reality is that the season is a roller coaster. I think that there are good and some things you can just kind of shrug off, things that you can take in and say, no, this is all really good stuff that you're seeing. Young developmental players finding a role, playing really well together, and connected basketball is, that's the kind of the buzzword that you hear from Chauncey Billups and the rest of the players. That connectedness is great to see. How long can they keep this thing going? And when it goes away, how quickly does it come back is kind of the big thing. You mentioned February basketball. Yeah, it's a tough time to play.
It is, and you get some veteran teams who are looking at 1-2-3 Cancun and some beat up bodies, and some dysfunctional teams have certainly come through. That it's been the easiest stretch of Portland's season so far as a strength of schedule point of view. So you can say that, but they're also beating up on teams. Like, that's the thing, is like they aren't just eking out wins. There is something here, and I've had a bunch of people like, well, you think they're a play-in team? No, I don't. No, they are not ready for that. Like, if you watch how the actual playoff teams have played them, like teams that you believe in that don't have some level of dysfunction going on at this time, i.e. Miami and Orlando, and you just sit there and you go, oh, yeah, that looks different. It's okay, and that's totally okay, because these are still growth. Like, it's still growth. There's still real gains. Like, I mean, you're playing Toumani Camara 36 minutes a night. Shaden and Scoot are both getting 27, 28 minutes a night, and you're seeing real positive impact. Like, even though Shaden didn't shoot well last night, I loved how aggressive he was.
Yeah,
like, he didn't hit threes, but he was 1 of 7 from 3, so he's 5 of 10 on twos.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
5 of 10 on twos, got 4 free throws. Like, he hits 2 threes, and he goes 3 of 7 last night. He's got 23 points on 17 shots, and his box score looks entirely different. Like, I don't necessarily I get the math of taking threes, but every time that dude drives, every time he drives, something positive seems to come out of it, and you see it more and more and more. Like, we can just do this after every single game. Denny did not have a great game again, and yet they run them off the floor. Like there's just been enough from it. I mean, we got this far and we haven't even said a word about Ant. I thought Ant was fantastic last night.
Yeah, we will, because I think there's an aspect of this that is not getting enough credence because of this time of the year. You said young legs in February basketball. There's a lot of teams that are looking for that all-star break and wanting just to get there. But there's a whole nother level that is at play this time of year that you cannot ignore, and it seems like the Blazers are, because as Scoot Henderson said, they're together like white on rice. I don't know what that means, but I liked it. It's
fun.
We need to get to the other aspect that people might be forgetting. This is a good run. They're playing really good basketball right now. I know that's to the chagrin of a lot of fans. I want them to tank, but the reality of it is, if you wanted to watch your Portland Trailblazers play good basketball, they're doing it right now.
Working out pretty well.
They are. Here's Rust with SportsCenter.
It's a Super Week edition of Danny and Dusty.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by Vulcan Design and Construction. Check out their award-winning outdoor living designs or schedule your free design consultation at vulcandc.com. First on The Fan, the Trailblazers have indeed won 5 straight, 9 of their last 10. They're off tonight. They host the Kings tomorrow. Who knows how the roster will look with the NBA trade deadline approaching tomorrow at noon Pacific. Already some activity ahead of tomorrow's deadline. ESPN Shams Charania reporting the Bucks trading forward Chris Middleton, rookie guard A.J. Johnson, and a pick swap to the Wizards in exchange for forward Kyle Kuzma, forward Patrick Baldwin Jr., and second-round compensation. Spurs' newly acquired De'Aaron Fox will make his San Antonio debut tonight at the Hawks. That's the first part of ESPN's doubleheader. The Spurs are 4.5-point favorites. That's followed by the Suns at the Thunder at 6:30. OKC 13-point favorites. Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Yusuf Nurkic, all at morning shoot-around. But Durant now out due to ankle soreness. Shams says KD has no interest in returning to Golden State. And on the college hard court, Oregon men's basketball back at it this afternoon. Losers of 3 straight. They've fallen out of the top 25. In Ann Arbor this afternoon to face Michigan. 3:30 tip on the Big Ten Network. Coverage right here on The Fan starts at 3 o'clock. Following Danny and Dusty, the Ducks are 8.5-point dogs. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Slam Dunk in Vegas is our nationwide contest for a chance to have the ultimate tournament viewing experience with 3 of your friends. More info at 1080thefan.com.
So the Portland Trailblazers in the midst of the longest win streak that they've had in, 4 years, you said, Danny Meringue? 4
Indeed.
seasons? Yeah. They rattled off 4 straight to start the 2022-2023 season. So you have to go back even one more to find a 5-game win streak. They've been playing really good basketball. In the last 10 games, 9 of their last 10, they have won. They are number 1 in net rating, number 1 in team defense, number 6 in team offense over that 10-game stretch. No ands, ifs, or buts about it. They're playing good. You mentioned, though, the fact that young legs in February and young teams like this, there is usually a surge because they're still playing hard, and they don't essentially know the lay of the land, right? This is like the dog days of summer in baseball, where it gets really hard. There's a lot of the veteran teams are sitting there going, you know what? We get about a week off here coming up in middle of February, and it's hard to get through this stretch of the year, and usually young teams will surge. There is another aspect, though, that I think we're overlooking. We mentioned this yesterday with DeAndre Ayton. His post-game press conference or post-game interview that he had with Brooke Olsendam after going for 25 and 20 against the Suns, he said, I tell you this all the time, I love it here. Mm-hmm. The trade deadline in a lot of veteran teams and veterans on young teams that are rebuilding like this, I think that when you mention Anthony Simons, the way he played, now internally they're not having these conversations with guys, but externally all the buzz is, everybody's available, all that stuff. For guys like Anthony Simons, DeAndre Ayton, Jeremy Grant, Robert Williams, the guys who have been, thrown out there, whether legitimate or not, into trade conversations, those guys staying engaged is also something that you got to give credit to Chauncey Billups and the rest of the staff and the organization, that they're keeping these guys engaged during this time that, dude, it's got to be a weird and stressful time for them. Yeah, no, there's a report out there from Jason Quick talking about the different meetings that have taken place over the last couple of weeks behind the scenes that have kind of reinforced a lot of things and brought guys together. And one of the things I think you can see on the floor is the amount of communication that takes place now. I keep going back to that one time when Denny just lost his collective S on Scoot for not getting, he was visibly pissed. It was no boy, he's and it's not just that he was angry and who he was angry at. It was that he felt comfortable enough to be like, what the bleep are you doing? Yeah. And I think that's who Denny is at his core. But when you first get here and you don't know guys, you can't do that. I mean, you can, but that's how you get punched in the face. Just, it's kind of a thing hell, Festus Ezeli tried to do the same thing here in Portland. It did not go well. Yeah, they told him to shut where the F up and get out of the locker room. They told him where he could go. Now, Festus wasn't wrong. Nope. But, sometimes the messenger matters, right? So just kind of how that stuff unfolds. And you had some realizations from some young guys. I think there was a humbling of both Scoot and Shaden, that occurred, and the understanding of what they need to do to get out on the court and to be productive. People can complain about Chauncey Billups, this, that, or the other. He does come, he is one of the maybe only people in the history of the NBA, when he says that I can speak to it, he can. He was the number 3 overall pick. He was a bust before he figured it out. He was a finals MVP and champion and all-star. He was a role player. He was traded out of nowhere. There's nothing in that dude's career outside of maybe a devastating injury that he can't go to one of those guys and go, I know the exact world that you're in. Yeah. I know what it's like to have a franchise give up on you. I know what it's like to have the franchise on your back. I know what it's like to get hit with a surprise trade. I know what it's like to question where you are and whether or not you can be an NBA. Anthony Simons has been on record talking about Chauncey Billups saving his actual career. So this is where, again, I don't think Chauncey's the best head coach I've ever seen in my life. But the thing that I have maintained throughout this entire process is that his relationship with those guys and his ability to keep the buy-in, regardless of what's happened, has been really impressive. Meaningful. You're finally starting to see it pay off.
And that's the whole thing of like development and guys coming together. And a big part of this that we don't want to admit is like number one, health, and number two, luck.
Sure.
Like all those things just kind of have to coincide for this to kind of happen. And it looks, like some version of that 2006, 2007 Blazers team that rattled off 13 straight.
Yeah. And I mean, it gets to a point though where, we do know the limitations of this team. You don't want to ignore the limitations of this team and where the ceiling is. But when you talk about maximizing what you have, I think that you're seeing that over this 10-game stretch, at least with the Portland Trailblazers. And you mentioned, and we've talked about this on the show, right, before the Shaedon Sharpe, come to Jesus meeting that he had with Chauncey Billups. That's not the only guy who's been having those meetings. You mentioned Anthony Simons being on the record like, Chauncey Billups saved my career. Like, these are the brutally honest conversations that are happening with Chauncey Billups and the players in that locker room. And Scoot Henderson was one of those guys as well. And Jason Quick of The Athletic has an article up right now. And I know that, this is something that you've been talking about, off the air for quite some time, Danny, is that there was a shift. I mean, for weeks you've been telling me about this off the air that, no, there was a meeting between Scoot and Chauncey, and it coincides with the change that we've seen. No,
it really does, and it wasn't one of those things where you just see this this slow build and like direction change. It was like, remember, like he was scoreless in a game. Was it Houston? I think it was Houston before he had that streak. So it wasn't like he was putting this stuff together, and you're like, oh, this is him finally culminating and like really putting a stretch of games together. There were some clunkers. There were some real stinkers. There was a lot of turnovers. There was a lot of missed shots. There was a lot of bad decisions. The defense was bad. Just like, oh, man, this is rough. And then Chauncey has the come to Jesus meeting with him. And this is not to give Chauncey all the credit, because the credit goes to Scoot Henderson for pulling his head out and realizing and figuring out what's going on. And the gist of it that was told to me was that, Chauncey kind of read him the riot act of, you're not good enough right now, dude. You're not. And I don't know what you need. Like, he just threw the tape on and just let the tape talk for him. And when the tape's that bad, the tape's that bad. You know this from football, Dusty. The camera don't lie.
Nope, you can't run from that.
And that's the thing is like, and to Scoot's credit, he didn't. And everybody I talked to said, from that moment on, like he just went out there and was just like, I'm gonna just be me. And he stopped caring about turnovers. He stopped caring about missed shots. He stopped caring about and he just started playing. And it basically took a year and a half for that to come together. And it just needed that moment for Scoot to play free. To have like something got knocked loose to where all of a sudden he's seeing the floor differently. He's playing with not just speed, but with better pace. He's understanding. He's having a plan of attack. Like, how many times have you seen him in the past month look like he doesn't have a plan when he attacks? Maybe once a game?
Maybe, yeah, but like that was his biggest bugaboo, was like he would go into the lane, leave his feet, and you're like,
well, now what?
What are you gonna do, bud?
Yeah, and he'll do that once a night now, but
yeah,
that's normal. You know what I mean? Like that happens. Sometimes the defense makes a play, but
what?
Yeah, I know. Crazy to credit the other team. It's always your own guy's fault, either the positive or the negative.
My gosh.
But like what he's done, and he's not perfect, but
no,
far from that. But the thing that he's been able to do is like he's playing more progressive. It's not just this linear thing of like A to B or making a pass just to make a pass. He's making a pass that either is a going to a look or actually getting the offense initiated. Like his rim pressure is resulting in actual production, and it's not just jumping up in the air and hoping. And there's so many more layers to his game now that you actually start like. He puts together a night like he had last night. What did he finish with? Was it 17? Yeah, he finished with 17, 5, and 3 on 7 of 13. The weird thing was he got no free throws. And that stood out to me because he's been so good at getting to the free throw line lately. But like that, the thing about his game, his shooting, has been like the thing that has kind of unlocked him. And I've had a bunch of people ask me like, what do I think? When do I think defenses are going to adjust to him? I don't think they'll adjust to him until next year. And that's not a shot at Scoot Henderson. You just gotta. he's got a year and a half of tape basically saying he can't and won't shoot.
Essentially this is his rookie year.
Yeah, they might in game start stepping up a little bit if he gets hot in a given game, but they're going to keep going under, or they're going to mix their coverages. They're not going to look at and treat him like Anthony Simons, where they go over every single thing, over lock and trail or top lock him and try to keep him from getting up above. Like, they're not going to do that. But that also allows the Blazers to capitalize. If Scoot Henderson does have players going under and he can hit some threes, that can be a thing that kind of gets him going. Like, if he steps into a comfortable three, I have no problem with him taking that shot. Like, there's nothing about his jumper where you're like, it's not Amen Thompson where you're like, ew, please, oh God, oh, where's that thing going, kind of a deal. But and I think that's the big part of this right now is this development arc, because it's not just Scoot, it's Shaden, it's Tu, it's Denny, it's Da, like it's Ant. I mean, like, everyone has had some level of advancement over the past 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, and this is the kind of the situation that I've been grappling with is you get stretches of play from young guys, and then it's how long until you start to believe. Because if this stretch would have happened last year for Scoot Henderson, I think everybody would be like, yep, we're going to be believers.
Oh, 100%.
That may have been unfair to him developmentally because it still is a smaller sample size, right? At this point, though, when we've seen, it was 90-plus games of trending towards a bust, historically speaking, you have 90-plus games of that, how much longer until we say, okay, no, he actually has figured it out?
I think really I want to see basically, I think when we were talking about this, like 25, 30 games of consistent, because here's what's going to happen is coming out of February into March, March basketball doesn't really matter. It's just particularly on lesser teams. It's just, that's where you where you get somebody who drops 40 on somebody in March and you're like, I don't know about that. Like, that's a little suspect, It's one of those situations. So for him, I really just think it's like, all right, let's see where he gets to. I had this up earlier. I want to try to run the little engine behind it. So according to Cleaning the Glass, Scoot Henderson's points per shot attempt last year was in the 9th percentile. Remember, low numbers are bad. 96.4. So less than a point per possession, okay? If I run it basically from January 1st of this year, if the website will actually work, it will go to maybe not work. Okay, it's going to not. There it goes. He's in the 91st percentile at 127.1.
Okay.
So you're talking about a seismic shift, a literal flip on its head from 9% to 91%.
Oof.
Yeah. So, and the big part of that is you look at his 3-point shooting. Scoot Henderson is in the 91st percentile since January 1st for effective field goal percentage. He is in the 94th percentile in 3-point percentage. He's in the 82nd percentile in corner 3-point percentage. And here's the thing. He's in the 47th percentile at rim finishing.
Wow.
So it's still not a good number, but that's actually a significantly better number that he has had. And he's in the 86th percentile in rim field goal attempts for guards. So, like, he gets there a lot. So that's where you're going to see a lot of the variance. But for Scoot, I mean, you're seeing this with Shaden. I think even last night, the aggressiveness is the key to his game. Tu may have just fully ascended. Tu might just be that guy. And then I think Denny is right there. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens over this next handful of games before the All-Star break.
All right. Well, look, there's a very real possibility it could fall apart. It's not. They're playing really damn well right now, and that should be applauded. And look, if you're upset about the tank, this is reality. We've been telling you now for over a week. This team is not operating like a team that is tanking. So recalibrate. Give it a little bit of time. Let's see where we are at the All-Star break.
Yeah,
there could be a big shift in Super Bowl 59. Not an injury, but availability in question over illness. Danny and Dusty on the Fan.
It's the Van
monitoring this. File this one away. Somebody that's going to be very important to Super Bowl 59 if the Philadelphia Eagles are going to win.
Oh.
Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network reporting Eagles defensive tackle Jalen Carter is dealing with an illness just 4 days before Super Bowl 59. He missed today's practice due to illness. That could be a big one. I mean, I'm just filing this one away. We don't know what's going on with Jalen Carter sometimes, especially when you get a guy like him who's just a game wrecker, and you're like, all right, hey, feller, why don't you just hop in there and just destroy what is going to happen up front? It's not the worst thing in the world to miss a day of practice. I'm going to file this one away, though, as we watch how the Super Bowl 59 unfolds, because he is going to be a massive part if the Eagles are going to win.
Yeah, I mean, that's the guy that you're talking about as it pertains to the Eagles and how different this Super Bowl matchup is going to be. The difference in between, what we think of the Chiefs and the Eagles and their offensive being, so much more powerful, where the pendulum has swung back the other way. It definitely feels like it's going to be a more defensive-oriented game. I'm taking the under. But Jalen Carter is a big part of that because he can absolutely stuff that Chiefs rushing attack, but also he's the guy who, as a one-man wrecking crew, can push that pocket right in Patrick Mahomes' face and make things incredibly disruptive. Like, I don't think we are collectively, not just in this Super Bowl, but talking about Jalen Carter and how disruptive and how talented and how good he is. Like, it's we know why he fell in the draft to that 9th spot, but like, his talent, like, God, I hate even putting him on. Like, he has like Aaron Donald-esque disruptability.
He can be as big of a disruptor as anybody in the NFL.
Yeah, and that's like, it's insane. Like, it's an automatic double, and usually you're getting some sort of triple team with some sort of chip or somebody coming over to help out because of what he does.
Yep.
And if he's out there with the mud butt, that's
Yeah, we don't know what it is. It could be like dude, if he's got like that influenza A, that junk can last forever. If he's just got a cold, it's no big deal. If he's got the mud butt, that's a different issue.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe
that might actually be the best version of this, because if he has that thing that was going around NBA locker rooms, it was murdering guys. Like, Dame flat out said it was the worst he's ever felt. Like, he was like, I've never had anything like that.
You just hope that maybe he had one too many beignets, and maybe he just has a little tummy ache.
You know what? Maybe he's got some cholesterol hands.
But I don't think anybody has cholesterol hands. I'm still rattled by that. I'm shook. I think I'd rather have the arsenic diet than the cholesterol hands diet.
I like it.
Nope.
I like it.
Nope.
Just
all right,
take a butter knife and just scrape it off your fingers.
Oh, gross. All right, so Jalen Carter, he's got a little bit of the ick, and we will find out the severity of that, as the Eagles do have to put him on the practice report. But Ian Rappaport, NFL Network, saying he did miss today's practice session due to illness. 98 in the middle, going to be very useful if the Eagles are going to win and prevent the Chiefs from getting a three-peat, which Pat Riley has approved the three-peat. Did you see that?
Now I definitely don't like it.
Yeah, the fact that Pat Riley trademarked three-peat and now any use of it has got to be cleared through him and he gets a little cash on it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it's brilliant marketing.
The man really is brilliant.
It's not like LeBron trying to trademark Taco Tuesday.
Yeah.
But he won.
Yeah.
I know, but the thing is, nobody had ever used three-peat before Pat Riley tried to do it. Nobody had done it. Taco Tuesday was around a long time before LeBron tried to do it.
Do you think Jimmy Butler starts four-peat coffee? Because he's a big coffee guy. Just to kind of stick it to him and say, oh, I'm going to one-up you. I'm going to go four-peat coffee. All right.
Why not go four-peat with some scotch?
I'm in.
Because of the peat.
Let's go. In. Your mind is on a different level today, Rust, and I'm here for it. I'm here for all of it. All right, the trade deadline less than a day away. We need to get to that. Also, we need to start diving in outside of Jalen Carter, potentially with Mudbutt. Super Bowl 59, what that looks like. Hour number 2, right around the corner, another trade going down in the NBA, and Dame getting help? Or just clearing the deck? Danny and Dusty on the Fan.
It's football.
Fan.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
KFXX, KWJJ, HD2, Portland. An Odyssey Sports Station. Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Jeff Rust with your Sports Center update. First on The Fan, the Trailblazers have won 5 straight and 9 of their last 10. They're off tonight. They host the Kings tomorrow, though. Who knows how the roster will look? The NBA trade deadline approaching Thursday afternoon at noon Pacific. There is already some activity ahead of tomorrow's deadline. ESPN Shams Charania reporting the Bucks trading forward Chris Middleton, rookie guard A.J. Johnson, and a pick swap to the Wizards in exchange for forward Kyle Kuzma, forward Patrick Baldwin Jr., and second-round draft compensation. The Spurs have announced newly acquired De'Aaron Fox will make his debut tonight at the Hawks. It's the first part of ESPN's doubleheader. The Spurs are 4.5-point favorites. That's followed by the Suns at the Thunder at 6:30. OKC are 13-point favorites. Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Yusuf Nurkic, all at morning shoot-around, but Durant now out due to ankle soreness. Shams says KD has zero interest in returning to Golden State. And on the college hardcourt, Oregon men's basketball back at it this afternoon. Losers of 3 straight. They've now fallen out of the top 25. In Ann Arbor to face Michigan this afternoon. 3:30 tip on the Big Ten Network. Coverage here on The Fan starts at 3 o'clock. Following Danny and Dusty, the Ducks are 8.5-point underdogs. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The Hot Corner, now in its new time. Tuesdays at 7 after Isaac and Sue on Portland's sports leader, 1080, The Fan. We're getting you ready for pro football's ultimate matchup.
Give us a taste.
Mashed has a noodle on.
Ooh, buddy.
This is a Super Week edition of Danny and Dusty.
Injured? Don't trust just anyone to something so personal. Call George McCoy at Warren Allen. Online at warrenallen.com.
Danny and Dusty on 1080.
I got hit in the head with the tortilla.
Yikes!
The Fan.
To Danny and Dusty with you on this Wednesday afternoon. I'm down in Eugene. Danny's back up in the studio. And we roll on, my man. Whether it's on 1080 AM, 99.5 HD2, the Odyssey app, twitch.tv/1080am The Fan, or youtube.com where the party people party, youtube.com/1080am The Fan. The NBA trade deadline less than a day away, and action continuing around the NBA. And today, Chris Middleton of the Milwaukee Bucks traded to the Washington Wizards for Kyle Kuzma.
Yeah, they started getting real traction last night before the game, where it was kind of circulating that the Bucks would probably get this done. The sticking point was in order for the Washington Wizards to take on Chris Middleton, whose ankles are fully cooked. Unfortunately, I love Chris. Double ankle surgery at his age. He's just it's gone. He's got one more year. He's got a player option on his deal, which he's definitely going to pick up. I don't even know if he's a viable NBA player after his contract. Like, I don't even know if he's a vet minimum guy. He just can't move, and it's such a bummer to see that happen to him. Like, he just fell off a cliff, and unfortunately that happens. When the mobility goes like that. We've seen this. With a lot of players, when you've got injury. It happened in Urk. His mobility is just nowhere near what it was before that devastating leg injury, and the sticking point was the Bucks were definitely not going to give up their prized asset, that 2031 unprotected first round pick, but they did have to give up one of their. I wouldn't call him a bust, but he's a flyer of a young guy, big time athlete in AJ Johnson, and that was really the sticking point. The Bucks were having to decide whether or not they wanted to part with that because they just don't have much. They've mortgaged so much in trading for Dame. Paying Chris, paying Giannis, having Dame on the roster, bringing Bobby Portis back, bringing Brook Lopez back. They just don't have a ton. They're at a point where they moved. As busted as Kyle Kuzma has been this year, he's better than Chris, and he's younger, and his deal's cheaper. So it gives him some size, it gives him some mobility, it gives him some additional skill. It's kind of funny. It's kind of full circle here for Kyle Kuzma in the sense of last year he was potentially on his way to Dallas, but he didn't believe Dallas's trajectory was that good, and he figured he would just stay in Washington because they were on the way up.
Wow.
Yeah. The Mavericks went to the NBA Finals, and the Wizards did not. So he was miserable, as one gets when you lose that many games. And now he ends up in Milwaukee. So it'll be interesting to see if they try to do something else in Milwaukee with that first-round pick. It does sound like they're trying. And by getting under the salary threshold, they are now able to aggregate salaries. That was a big push here, too, for getting a guy like Kuzma. I think they saved $12 million.
Getting under the second apron.
Yep,
Important.
so they can combine Bobby Portis and Pat Connaughton's salaries to go and try and get somebody if they do want to go use that first-round pick. 3 days ago, it's all blending together now, they were pushing very hard for Zach LaVine. I had heard a combination where they would use that first-round pick potentially would be on Middleton in that first for LaVine and Ayo Dosunmu, and then obviously the De'Aaron Fox trade happens. LaVine goes to Sacramento, and they had to pivot and go somewhere else. And I think you're hearing a lot of that in the NBA right now. Pivot and go somewhere else. Pivot and go somewhere else. We can talk about the Durant stuff, the Jimmy stuff here in a little bit, but there's a lot of things going on in the league right now. It's I would say interesting.
Okay, Chris Haynes had this as part of his reporting of it. The Wizards will also receive a 2028 first-round soft swap.
Mm-hmm.
The Blazers have that swap, right?
Yeah.
Is this soft spot meaning that if the Blazers pick to the Bulls ends up getting conveyed, then there is no swap there? So
there's a further illustration.
Washington would get that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Deal. So,
all right.
And I believe they had to call Portland to allow that.
Okay.
Because they do.
So Blazers did get in on a deal.
I need to double check, but I believe that's the case.
I swear to God, if that's it.
I mean,
all right.
Probably will be.
Let's. Oh boy. Yeah. All right. You just said it right there. So we're not getting Kevin Durant here in Portland?
No, nor Jimmy Butler.
All right. Well, what's the status with those two guys? Because, I can't. When stuff comes out as quickly as it does surrounding stars like this, it is insanely difficult to follow where we're at any given moment, because it seems like every 10 minutes you turn around and you look and something new on Jimmy Butler or Kevin Durant is popping up.
Well, the Kevin Durant stuff, before the game, we were all kind of huddled up, a lot of us talking, and it sounded very, very, very much like things were going to happen, that a Kevin Durant deal was going to happen, a 3-team deal between Miami, Phoenix, and Golden State, where Kevin Durant would end up back in the Bay. Jimmy Butler would end up in Phoenix, and then some version of Wiggins, Kuminga would end up in Miami. So, or Kuminga would end up in Phoenix, and Wiggins and something else would end up in Miami. It sounded like it was getting very close. Kevin Durant does not want to go back to the Bay. Draymond Green. It is what it is. But they've now flagged that publicly. It sounded last night that got out that KD was not thrilled about this, but he has no leverage. So
it came out Durant doesn't want to go to the Warriors, so now the Warriors are looking at Brandon Ingram potentially now.
Remember 2 weeks ago when they gave Steph and Draymond the hostage note to go read that hey, we are not in fact interested in making any moves that will cost the franchise any real pieces going forward.
Right.
Boy, does that look funny in the light, huh? Almost like maybe the organization asked them to do that because everyone and their mom knew that they were chasing to make desperate moves, and when things got that desperate publicly, they realized that they were not going to get any kind of price on anything.
There's also a report out there via the Miami Sun-Sentinel that I found really interesting. Ira Winderman had this one where there was a teammate, somebody on the roster in Miami, had said, and doesn't want to put their name behind it, the roster would embrace Jimmy Butler if he came back. This seems like this has nothing. It's more of Pat Riley versus Jimmy Butler than Jimmy Butler versus his locker room at all.
100%. Look, are they tired of Jimmy? Yeah. Like the extra Jimmy, but the rest of it, they're fine.
I don't think that there is a way, of course the players in the locker room would welcome him in. I don't know if you're going to get a version of Jimmy Butler that is locked in at this point, because if there's one thing that we've seen from Jimmy Butler, that man will be spiteful if he's forced to be anywhere that he doesn't want to be. And he doesn't want to be in Miami right now.
No, and look, him picking up his option next year would be very funny, because it would make things very, very difficult for Miami, and I'm all for that.
All right. Well, there's your trade deadline little buzz going on right now, and it just appears that Bradley Beal is hunkering down and saying, I don't want to go anywhere.
Because he said, I don't have to go anywhere, so I'm not going to. I don't care. That man is so unbothered by all of this. It's actually kind of impressive. It's kind of an Office Space situation of he's just like, I don't have to do this, and I won't do this. You can't make me.
This is the damnedest thing, though, is that he's honestly going to be in a place where they don't want him, and now the fan base is going to turn on him. If they're like, dude, there's options for you. Why won't you go there? And he's just like, nope.
I agree, 100% agree that it was like, well, he's making $50 million. It doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't know, man. Being around a bunch of people that hate your guts, no matter how much money you have, it's like, yeah, you can wipe your tears with that money. It's fine, but it's still miserable.
Look, let's face it, though. Phoenix could have prevented a bunch of this by trying to get him to waive his no-trade clause.
Or wait for it here, not traded for Bradley Beal
everyone
said not to.
Yeah. Or that.
Yeah. Well, there is that aspect of it.
Like,
but at the same time, he's
is,
going to get paid no matter where he's at.
The gist of it is his wife is from the West Coast, and he's not going to move away from that because he's not going to make, happy wife, happy life. We all know
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So he's not just going to go up to basketball Siberia and be up in Chicago or up in Detroit and make her unhappy, especially like when you have that no trade clause.
We're talking, oh my goodness, the worst city in the world to be in is in Chicago. Like,
I'm just saying.
I'd rather like basketball Siberia would be like if you get
Charlotte.
I love
back to Washington.
Well, yeah, Washington or God, it may be on the West Coast, and we love our own city, but for Bradley Beal, it'd be Portland, right? I mean, we can honestly have this conversation of his wife may be from the West Coast, but. Coming up to Portland right now where you're going to make a lot of money, but you're not going to win a lot of games. And yeah, you're in the West Coast, but you're tucked up north. That's probably not something, and it's not a major city. Like going to Chicago, you may be on a bad team, but you're in a major city. It's a hub city where you can get in and out really quickly if you want to, and you're going to have a bunch of cash. Like that is what I don't understand about guys like Bradley Beal, because right now he's going to be a hindrance to them winning a championship. And so if he's like, I want to be on a good team with good culture, you're kind of dragging that down a little bit, right? I mean,
it's a tough place to be.
That's where I see it, at least.
Yeah.
All right, 503-864-6326. That is the Vancouver Ford text line. I have seen this bouncing around quite a few times.
Mm-hmm.
Wait. We actually have more trade news and audio, too, that we need to get to. I want to get to that because I thought Brian Windhorst made a really good point. This is Danny and Dusty on the Fan.
Slam dunk. A fan.
Like The Undertaker, all trade talks seem to rise up out of nowhere and come back swinging. Brian Windhorst of ESPN, this is a long piece of audio, but I think it is good when talking about the NBA's trade deadline, less than 24 hours away. Brian Windhorst on Kevin Durant and Jimothy Butler.
Trust me when I tell you, they have tried every nook and cranny of this league trying to figure out a way to trade Bradley Beal to a place he would accept and that would deliver them the kind of pieces that they would need to then go acquire Jimmy Butler. To this point, they have failed, and they are running out of time. Meanwhile, they are very much struggling on the court. They are now down to on the verge of being out of the play-in. They are one game over 500. They have an owner in Matt Ishbia who is absolutely one of the most aggressive owners we've ever seen and will not stand for that position. With no way to necessarily acquire Butler and put him with Durant, they have now had to realize that they may have to put Durant on the trade block, and they have talked to several teams about that. One of the teams that they have talked about is indeed the Golden State Warriors, because we know that the Golden State Warriors for the last year have been very aggressively trying to get a star player. They tried for LeBron. They tried for Paul George. They tried for Lauri Markkanen. They probably tried for other players we don't know about, and now they're trying to get the reunion for KD back. So how does it involve the Miami Heat? Well, the discussions have included bringing the Heat in and getting Jimmy Butler ending up potentially in Phoenix, where he would be in Phoenix where he's wanted to be all along, but instead of being aside Kevin Durant, he would be essentially being traded for Kevin Durant. Now, coming up with all the pieces and parts and getting everybody to agree to that is very difficult, much less the concept of Kevin Durant going back and playing with Steph Curry. And I have no idea how it's going to work out, but that is one of the things under discussion. There are other Durant potential places, as well as Durant just staying put and maybe not going there. And there's even a possibility that one of the Beal avenues that have been closed off could reopen. So I can't predict which avenue this is going, but it is possible that Kevin Durant could be on the move yet again at the trade deadline.
And we touched on that in the last segment, but that speaks to that desperation that you're talking about, Danny.
Yeah, no, the Phoenix Suns are definitely in that vein, and I got it. Like I said, I got a text yesterday from somebody with the Suns going back and forth with them, and I said the back-to-back losses to the Blazers caused for some serious soul searching, and then the response I got was, "Brother, you have no idea."
Boy.
And so, do I think they're going to deal Durant? No, because transactions are always less likely than likely, but boy, did it feel like it was very close last night. Very close.
When you say very close, like on the cusp of actually, like,
at the
emails
goalpost.
are going out?
Yeah, like everyone, like literally everyone is talking like, oh, this sounds like it's done.
Wow.
And I think the sticking point was KD through either himself or his agent went, no, I don't want to go back to the Bay. And that's then to the point of oh no, he genuinely does not want to go back.
Man.
And it's
if they
notice again,
it's all Draymond Green.
Look, what was the name that Brian Windhorst said that KD was going to go play with who? Steph.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not state secrets that Draymond is a big part of the reason that forced Draymond or that forced KD out there.
Do you think they would ever just part ways with Draymond Green?
Look, there was another. I don't even like putting this out there, but I will. There was another rumor that there was a framework being discussed that would have sent Draymond to Phoenix. Because,
there we go. Yeah.
Well, think about this here real quick. Matt Ishbia, billion-dollar owner. Where did he go to school?
Michigan State.
Did he play basketball there?
He did.
Where did
he
Draymond Green play basketball?
Michigan State.
See, I was just going to say, does Draymond really have any sort of a market anywhere other than where he is? But I guess if there were one.
No, he does. He does.
Really? This late?
Yeah. He's still got the juice. He's not the guy, but he's still got the juice.
A guy on a championship team, yeah. There would be quite a few teams that would be knocking down that door, yeah.
Yeah, I think if Draymond was actively being shopped, there'd be a few teams come calling for sure.
Okay,
for sure. But KD, this is what we said coming out of the Luka stuff. I mean, half dozen general managers I've talked to in the last couple of days, and ask some version of like, does the Luka trade change like how you ask? And every single one of them replied with some version of yes. In that, yeah, you go check on Giannis, you go check on Jokic, you go check on like SGA, you call about everyone right now, and you go, hey, if it's somebody you're interested in, like if Portland is looking at some young, let's throw out something dumb, Jalen Williams, Oklahoma City. Okay. Let's say that that's a guy who they value that they could put into this team, the one that's the good one. But like that, again, I'm just totally picking a random player. But you call OKC and you go, hey, if we put a package of X, Y, and Z together for Jalen, is that something you'd be interested in?
Yeah.
No, click. All right, cool. But like you do, like, because you might, it might just be like straight up 50s cold calling, and then but until you get that one person is like, tell me more. Like that's quite literally like the version of this that I got. More. Like, now that you put it that way, we are open to looking at, that if you do this and then like that's how these deals are like. That's how all of a sudden Kevin Durant is available.
Yeah. All right.
It's crazy.
Wow, I'm excited for the trade deadline. I hope we start seeing some fireworks, and I hope the hometown team can get involved in anything, because if it's like you are signaling and the signals you are getting from the organization, if the Blazers are active, it's going to be a worthwhile move. They're not just going to make a move just to make one. So hopefully they get something done, because that would be is starting to be a little bit of that earth movement, right? Not earth shaking. Well, just like a little rumble, maybe. A little rumble.
Well, it isn't a
little something.
The only time you don't like a little rumble is when it's in a little rumbly in your tumbly.
Well, Jalen Carter.
There you go. Yeah.
Maybe. We don't know. Could be cold.
All right,
could be bubble guts.
Have you guys ever heard of the Waffle House Index?
Actually, yes, I have, and this is fascinating.
So we're gonna dive into the Waffle House Index, but we're also gonna there might be a new alert system of the Waffle House Index that makes it even worse. But first, here's the big Kahuna, the Sports Center update.
I hear they got some tasty burgers.
It's a Super Week edition of Danny and Dusty.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, the Trailblazers have won 5 straight, 9 of their last 10. They're off tonight. They host the Kings tomorrow. Who knows how the roster will look, though? The NBA trade deadline approaching tomorrow afternoon at noon Pacific. There is some activity ahead of tomorrow's deadline. ESPN's Shams Charania reporting the Bucks sending forward Chris Middleton, rookie guard A.J. Johnson, and a pick swap to the Wizards in exchange for forward Kyle Kuzma, forward Patrick Baldwin Jr., and second round draft compensation. The Spurs announced newly acquired De'Aaron Fox will make his debut tonight at the Hawks. That's the first part of ESPN's doubleheader. The Spurs are 4.5-point favorites. That'll be followed by the Suns at the Thunder at 6:30. OKC 13-point favorites. Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Yusuf Nurkic all at shoot-around this morning, but Durant now ruled out due to ankle soreness. Shams says KD has no interest in returning to Golden State. And on the college hardcourt, Oregon men's basketball back at it this afternoon. Losers of 3 straight. They've now fallen out of the top 25 in Ann Arbor this afternoon to face Michigan. 3:30 tip on the Big Ten Network. Coverage right here on The Fan starts at 3 o'clock. Following Danny and Dusty, the Ducks are 8.5-point dogs. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Do it every morning. Dirt and Spray. Weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. on Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan. midweek edition of Danny and Dusty
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
on 1080 The Fan. It's time for today's worst day on the web with Danny and Dusty on Odyssey and 1080 The Fan.
Well, that sucks.
For those not familiar with the Waffle House Index, Waffle Houses are the most insane franchise maybe in the world in that they will stay open during natural disasters.
The second most likely place to see a chair thrown outside of the set of Geraldo Rivera's show.
Indeed. But they have an actual like emergency guide. They have what they call like kind of a stand up in that they will quote unquote helicopter in, which means employees from neighboring Waffle House restaurants not affected by said national emergency or federal emergency in their region will come in and support the Waffle House in danger, as it were. Board it up, bag it up, do whatever you need to do, but stay open basically at any cost. And they're trained on what to do in a flood, what to do in a hurricane, like how to mitigate loss, how to stay open. It like becomes kind of a survival place. And it's also what FEMA uses, and I'm not kidding. FEMA uses closed Waffle Houses as the sign to send in the National Guard.
Wait, this is real?
Oh, this is a real thing. Like
FEMA actually uses it. Like if Waffle House closed, they need real help.
Like they need real help. Like, oh no, this is bad because the Waffle Houses have basically like perfected this. Like how to stay open, when to close, when to get people out, how to get people out. Like they have got this down to a rapid deployment science.
I heard this. God, what was it? What was there's a tornado. Joplin, Missouri. Do you remember the Joplin tornado? Do you remember that ripped through Joplin, Missouri? Yeah. I remember hearing like at some point they were talking about that. Like that's where the Waffle Index like came into my orbit, right? Is that they were like, "Oh my God, this is actually real." I thought that was kind of a one-off, and maybe that like the government was just like, "Yeah, no, this happens because Waffle House is closed down." No, they're still using that to this day.
Yeah, I mean,
that's just like a thing.
It's
now,
a real
huh?
thing, and it's like so because Waffle House.
I love this so much.
Think about how they operate, right? If they're offering a full menu, they likely have power, they likely have gas, they likely have like whatever necessary supplies to make things work.
Dude,
right?
People need their waffles, man.
If they have a limited menu and they can't run the griddle because they don't have gas, that means there's very likely a ruptured gas line nearby. If if they don't have electricity and they can't offer whatever that is, that like, oh, there's probably a down power line. So you can use these as markers and indicators for severity of the storm. It's very dumb, but also very ingenious. Because it's particularly if you look at how and where Waffle Houses are around the South, did you know there's also a direct correlation map? I shouldn't say direct correlation. There is a map that is pretty stunning in how it overlays almost directly over Waffle Houses and the highest cholesterol counts in the country.
Really?
It's almost.
Well, I mean that's.
But I mean.
But
I mean, it's not just the South air quotes. No, it's not just the South air quotes. It's over the Waffle Houses. Like you see it like bulge out into a region like around a Waffle House, and you go,
pay no attention to that.
Huh?
Just imagine the federal government too trying to reach like Northwest Natural. Be like, hey, nobody's answering the phone. Let's call the Waffle House over there in Slabtown. Let's see if they're open.
I mean,
look, I think all this is telling me right now is that Oregon needs a Waffle House for when the big one happens.
Yeah, right. Because that's you know how bad the earthquake actually is.
Yeah, I mean we're gonna get no aid because we don't have any Waffle Houses here.
The other thing about this is like they may need to add a new scale to the Waffle House Index because Waffle House is adding 50 cents per egg surcharge to customers' orders, citing the impact of egg shortages and rising prices.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so bad that Waffle House is like, nah, dog, we can't handle this. We need to charge more.
That's when you know it's a big deal.
That's when it's like, oh crap.
See, another national emergency here, flagged by the Waffle House.
I'm not kidding, man. The Waffle House is like the DEFCON rating for where we're at with stuff. It's absolutely crazy. They said that 17 million egg-laying hens were slaughtered in just November and December alone due to the bird flu.
The avian flu, dude. Watch out. It's getting your egg price. Now all those hipsters in Portland have chickens in their backyard that piss off all their neighbors. Who's laughing now, huh?
Well, my sister's got them in Newburgh, and she runs out of. This is like the only time of year where they're not like producing eggs is like December, January. After that, they're basically. No. Well, no, it's now she's gonna have a racket going. But
I will say there is a certain local dairy company from which we receive a weekly delivery, and we can get cage-free eggs from them still for $5.99 a dozen.
I mean, that ain't bad for cage-free,
right?
I mean,
especially in this day and age.
So according to this is back to November. So I don't think this is up to date, but a price of a dozen large grade A. What's the difference between grade A and grade AA?
No idea.
Know?
It's probably a similar. It's probably a similar rating as like the USDA and their meats, whether it's prime or
yeah. But it's an egg. Like, how can you tell? It's not broken.
I mean, probably depends on the facilities in which the chickens are kept. I'm guessing.
There you go. Okay, but they said that
laying out on this, no idea.
Yeah, no, I got nothing on this one.
I could wildly speculate.
Yeah, which is
that's what I was just doing.
Yeah, made me wonder difference between grade A and.
New rule: anytime Russ wildly speculates, he has to do it in Cartman voice.
Okay, so
look, I think it's probably just like the USDA and steaks.
You're not wrong.
See, there you go.
Grade AA eggs have significantly firmer whites and a slightly more defined yolk outline compared to grade A eggs.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So apparently they're holding up to each one up to the light.
Yes, they do. They do that. I don't know how closely they're monitoring it.
That one looks like a velociraptor inside.
Right? Yeah. I do love a firmer white.
All right.
No, okay.
Damn it, dude.
But they said that a carton of eggs was $4.15 in December, which is up from $3.65 in November. Where on earth can you get a carton of eggs for $4.15? It's double that.
I don't know. We buy like the flats of eggs. We go through so many at our house.
Oh yeah, you got kids. Do you do the Costco run? Or?
Dude, it is ridiculous.
No,
you can get them at the Winco.
Oh, see, you guys have got a Winco. I don't have access to the large big box store.
Oh yeah, the Winco's pretty close.
Yeah. So it's I mean,
you can get 60. You can do it at Costco too. Costco's out, man.
Holy crap. You guys have got it. We've got to play a little guessing game here. Eggs are the most ordered item at Waffle House, which why isn't it called Egg House? They operate 2,100 locations in 25 states.
2,100
in 25 states.
25 states.
So just use the 2,100 locations.
Got it.
How many eggs do you think they go through in a year? Because we have the numbers.
2.1 million.
Rust? How many? What number are we going with here,
Over
Rusty?
$200 billion.
Yeah, I feel like I should have gone 21
You're closer.
million.
Dusty, multiply that by
100
or by 10.
Yeah, I was gonna say I should have gone 21 million.
272 million eggs a year.
Oh, that's a lot of eggs.
272 million eggs a year.
Just for Waffle House.
Just for Waffle House. And that compares with 153 million servings of hash browns and 124 million waffles.
So 270 something a year. So you're figuring about 75% of an egg per person per day just by Waffle House, like in terms of population of the U.S., assuming we're like 330-ish million.
Yeah.
I mean,
wow.
And that's just the Waffle House.
That's just the Waffle House.
And
that's incredible.
I'm doing the math here. That's 129,500 eggs per Waffle House location.
Goodness gracious.
Basically 130,000 eggs a year. So 100 divided by 365. That's three. That means they're doing roughly 355 eggs a day.
They're doing that many
per
eggs.
location.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
355 eggs. You've worked in the restaurant world. That seems high.
Well, so 355, but you divide that by 2 because somebody ordering eggs is ordering at least 2.
Yeah, but you have to understand everything that is on
75.
Everything on the menu is made with eggs.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Waffles,
pancakes, French toast, eggs.
Yeah.
You know, like all of it.
I'm thinking the egg serving. So you're right.
Are we over assuming that they use actual eggs and such, like in their waffle
and
batters
not
and
their
pancake batters and such?
I am. I hold them to a higher standard, and with the number that he threw out there, I am going to assume that. I think that's a safe assumption when they're going through over 200 million eggs a year. I feel like we're going to go with yes, they do use eggs in that.
I mean, it's absolutely bonkers, right?
Yeah.
Like this.
Yeah.
The sheer this has been the not necessarily the worst day on the web. It's more of like the educational day on the web. It's like,
I think it's great. I found nothing bad about this.
When I saw this, I just went, but how? Like the Waffle House Index I was aware of, but like just like how expansive it has gone, and now like the Waffle House is legitimately worried about egg pricing. Like that should make everybody go, oh crap, Waffle House is worried about this?
I'm gonna tune in here with Duncan on my shoes on the YouTube chat, and even though they're not a sponsor, I'm gonna stick with Tom's in Beaverton. Tom's
Pancake House.
The OG
classic.
What's the one on in the coast in Astoria?
You got Pig and Pancake.
Pig and Pancake,
that's a chain. There's a few of them.
Is there a chain?
Yeah, there's a couple of them.
Yeah, there used to be one in Tualatin. My sister worked at the Pig and Pancake in Seaside when she lived with my aunt for a summer.
That's the one we usually hit is the one in Seaside.
I'm not a big breakfast food guy, but anytime I'm on the beach, you get up early and you get the beach smell in the air. You're like,
Worst mistake I ever made was we went and hit the Pig and Pancake, and for some reason that day I was like, I got a hankering for some chicken fried steak and eggs, and then we went and hit the Tilt-A-Whirl.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah, that was a poor choice.
That's a choice.
We went through on it once, and the kids are like, let's go again. I'm like, you guys go ahead. I'm going to sit this one out.
Got the old Colin Cowherd.
Oh, man.
Hey, man. Go run that Tilt-A-Whirl.
That doesn't happen much to me, but that time I was like, oh, buddy.
I feel like the guy run that Tilt-A-Whirl saw you walking across the street.
I think he did.
From the Pig and Pancakes, like, I got my Huckleberry.
Yeah, he had a twinkle in his eye.
Ooh, buddy.
It's an interesting spot to be. I don't even know how to evaluate the world as we see it through the lens of the Waffle House Index.
I do. I think that it saves our country, you know? I mean,
it does unite the South, which we need to be careful of doing.
This is going to be like Elon Musk running Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency.
He's just copy
like,
the Waffle House.
Everything is the Waffle House Index now. It's like, well, we don't have the other 25 states don't have Waffle Houses. Well,
better start building.
Guess what?
They are going to be federally funded.
Yeah. Well, you know what ended up happening?
Much worse.
The West Coast version of it would be In-N-Out. The reason, for those that don't know, you know why In-N-Out doesn't spread very fast?
For distribution purposes.
It's supply chain. Because they will not go outside of their supply chain.
I'm fine with that.
But
I don't care. I'm not an In-N-Out guy. They're overrated.
That's because you're a weird Burgerville guy.
No, I'm a correct Burgerville guy.
Whoa!
Listen, I'll pay a little extra for a better burger and shake.
We all know In-N-Out, their fries suck. Burgerville has got elite fries. Don't lie to everybody, Danny. Do not lie to everybody and be like, yeah, no, In-N-Out's fries are really good. They even know their fries suck.
The first thing everybody's going to say is that, oh, well, In-N-Out doesn't cost as much as Burgerville. Great, yeah. Do you want to know why? It's because that burger is that much crappier.
How dare you?
I'm going to pay more for a better burger.
I can tell you what right now, people are not going to be paying for Hollywood Brown's autograph because he's devalued the living bejesus out of it by apparently signing over 100,000 of them. We'll get to that here next here on Danny and Dusty, Today the Fan.
Hello, sports fans, and welcome to
Prime Time with Isaac and Sue.
Clinton can only play like 15 minutes a night because he gets gassed. Like, he literally can't play 20 minutes a night. And I know that, like, you know, he can get in shape, but I mean, that's the definition of a project. There isn't a single player on that roster right now that you say feels like a definite building block going forward, and that is problematic.
Good times.
The home of Prime Time with Isaac and Sue. Weekdays 3 to 7, 1080 The Fan.
Hey, let me ask you something. Does your bathroom need a serious upgrade? I found YHIC, your home improvement company. Let me tell you, they make transforming your bathroom easier than I ever imagined. You can transform your space up to 30% off on a bathroom remodel. Imagine turning your bathroom into a spa-like retreat. Call 503-837-2348 today to schedule your There's plenty of athletes out there that will not sign everything in front of them because by doing so, it devalues the strength of their signature being on stuff. It's one of those things where there are certain athletes who are like, nah, I don't sign stuff just because I want to have my stuff maintains value. And then there's players like Damian Lillard who sign everything. Like I've seen that guy stay after for 3 hours and sign for every single person that was waiting. Like and that's a normal occurrence. Hollywood Brown has taken this to a whole other level where he says he thinks he signed 100,000 autographs this year. He says, I signed a baby in training camp, a few babies. But Jeff Rust, you did the math on what it would take to sign 100,000 autographs in a year.
Yes, let me see here. I got to pull up my old calculator again here.
Oh, boy.
Hang on here. 2 seconds.
I believe it was, I think you said 1,900 a day?
That would be, no, it would be 1,923 per week, which comes out to just a shade under 275 per day. and that would be every day, each day of the 365-day year.
275 a day? Like
A day.
So Waffle House eggs in a day, 355. Hollywood Brown signatures a day, 275.
Yeah, there we go.
I think, well, he's just ballparking here. And as he's just ballparking that number, it's not as absurd as it may seem on the surface. Like, he's not. It may be closer to 75,000 or 80,000. I bet that is about right, though. When you see, like, at training camp, the guys will literally sign 500 to 600 autographs a day if they are a signer like a Lillard, or it sounds like Hollywood Brown is, right? They literally will go through and sign every single person's autograph. And I bet you if we looked up Hollywood Brown's signature, I bet it is not anything that's too hard to sign. Some are very intricate and actually use penmanship. Others are just scribbles. And I bet that's what he has, and you can probably get a bunch done in a row.
Yeah,
I don't think it's that far off.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at it right now. It's an M and a B.
Yeah.
There you go. It's a big M and a big B. Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown.
Yeah.
Is his name. So, yeah, you're and there's it's super simple. And I can't remember who said it the other day, but they were very particular about their signature because it was an old baseball player said Harmon Killebrew. Like, if you look at Harmon Killebrew's signature on everything, it is flawless. It's one of the best autographs you'll ever see. And he said, if I'm going to sign this thing, I'm going to take the time to, like, who this is. Like, the penmanship is exquisite. Like, it's like the kind of thing, like, did somebody use his handwriting to do the Declaration of Independence? Like, what is going on here?
Boy, we really have penmanship sucks.
Oh God, beyond horrid.
Yep. It's really bad now. Like, and I remember, like, we didn't really care all that much about penmanship coming up, and that was like, 35 years ago or whatever when I started school. They spend even less time on it now. Like, it's really bad.
Yeah, the stuff that I see all the time, whenever I see a lot of things that are signed, I've got some team balls that are at the house that, from over the years. And there's some guys that have some good signatures. Boy, do most of them just make it to where it's like so they can get the volume out.
That's right. You gotta get it all done.
I get it. Like, Dame's, it is a D and an L, but, like, you can see it says Dame Lillard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can actually see it.
Yeah.
Like, there's something to it. I just pulled up the Harmon Killebrew one, and yeah, it's insane. He signs baseballs, a round object that looks like that there's like a line underneath his signature. Do you know what I mean? Like, it looks like he's writing on type space paper. Like, it's that straight, that tight, that perfect. And there's, like, it doesn't roll over anywhere. Like, everything about it is so pristine. It stands out. And this man could not do 100,000 of these a year.
No. It's like everybody's grandma has, like, the same handwriting. It looks really nice. It's great. I mean, like, our future's screwed. Like, all the kids moving forward, it's going to look like a bunch of crackheads are signing autographs, I mean, my grandparents had, like, immaculate handwriting. Jealous of it.
Yeah.
I write in all caps. That's where I'm at in my life.
I do the same, and this came about because I used to write incredibly fast, and it was chicken scratch. Like, that's I could read it.
Yep.
Like, it's like a lot like when a
but
journalist.
You were it.
Yeah, it's like when
You
a journalist
doctors?
has, like, their own, like, ciphers, so notes.
I'll
are
beat you
protected.
both. Both of my parents are in medicine.
Yeah,
and my brother is also.
Yeah, my dad's an engineer. It's very much the same.
We all
thing,
basically write in hieroglyphics.
Yeah, my when I was a kid, my mom would ask me what my dad wrote, like, because she's like, I have no idea this is. I'm like, oh, this is easy, because my handwriting was very similar. I had a teacher, I want to say it was my freshman year or sophomore year, I can never remember, but they flat out told me, because this is before we handled it, like, typing a paper was like what you did for a final, because everything else was handwritten back then still. Like, yes, for anybody listening young, we didn't used to type everything out because printer ink was expensive. Like, that was a thing. Like,
yeah, see?
It's very weird. You hand wrote everything. So I had a teacher tell me flat out she would not accept assignments from me anymore because it was so bad. And so I was like, fine. And I go, then I'm going to write in all caps. And so I started writing, like, And like this is an English teacher. She got mad because like, well, you don't write in all caps. It's not the right way to do it. This is way back when people used to care about this kind of thing. And I was like, you get two.
You have to learn cursive.
Yeah, and I was like, you get two options. You get all caps or you get chicken scratch. And so it started turning into this very bubbly all caps writing to the point where when my wife first saw my handwriting, she was like, "Who wrote this for you?" I was like, "That's my handwriting. Sorry." It's very, very weird.
Oh, hey, this just came across. Jonas Valanciunas is going to Sacramento.
Oh, that's different.
And they got 2 second-round pick. They gave up 2 second-round picks for him.
That's an interesting spot. The Suns were trying to park Yusuf Nurkic in Washington last night, and Jake Fisher is indeed reporting that. So yeah, there was a talk that that Nurk was going to head to Washington for Valanciunas, and well, that takes one more big off the market.
Wow.
So
and look, I think that it pertains to Portland too, right? Because what had everybody been signaling, like Robert Williams?
Yeah,
2 second-round picks.
I don't know if you noticed, but the second-round pick in Jaden Springer deal didn't get Robert Williams III.
That's right. There 2 second-round picks in City Sissoko going the way of Washington for Jonas Valanciunas. Interesting.
Which makes sense because
and Sissoko they just picked up in the De'Aaron Fox trade.
Indeed, and he's also just another young flyer. So A.J. Johnson, C.D. Sissoko, like, hey, we're not doing anything. Let's see if one of these guys sticks. Sound familiar, anybody?
Well, I mean, if you don't have a direction or a path or any good parts, then yeah, go ahead and do that.
You know, it's
throw the spaghetti against the wall, see if it sticks.
A little bit more juice going into the deadline here. Let's see if anybody gets desperate and puts anything real on the table.
Interesting.
So,
all right.
Well, coming up next, it's Wednesday, and we have yet to talk about the Super Bowl. So
I love it.
Maybe we should dive into some Super Bowl stuff.
Let's
reset hour number 3 with a look ahead at Super Bowl licks. Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan.
4.5-point favorites. That's followed by the Suns at the Thunder at 6:30. OKC 13.5-point favorites. Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Yusuf Nurkic, all reportedly at morning shoot-around, but Durant now out due to quote-unquote ankle soreness. Shams says KD has said he has no interest in returning to Golden State. Over in college basketball, Oregon men's hoops back at it this afternoon. Losers of 3 straight. They've fallen out of the top 25 now. In Ann Arbor to face Michigan. 3:30 tip on the Big Ten Network. Coverage here on the Fan starts at 3 o'clock following Danny and Dusty. The Ducks are 7.5-point dogs. And Matt Zenitz of CBS Sports reporting Ohio State plans to promote receivers coach Brian Hartline to offensive coordinator. Oregon offensive coordinator Will Stein had been considered a top candidate. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The home of prime time with Isaac and Sue. Weekdays 3 to 7, 1080 The Fan. Super Week is all about fattening foods.
Put the good meat out for Dusty.
Big screens.
Come to my garage and we'll film something, bud.
And good sportsmanship.
I got a lot of problems with you people.
How about you shut up?
This is Danny and Dusty on Super Week.
Injured? Don't trust just anyone to something so personal. Call George McCoy at Warren Allen. Online at warrenallen.com.
Danny and Dusty on 1080 The Fan.
Welcome to Danny and Dusty on a Wednesday afternoon, and do not, for your own service and safety, go to Dusty Harris' garage to film something.
No. Russ just taking all of the blackmail clips and just throwing them all into one open. Thanks, bud.
Goodness.
Not all of them. I left a few in the old treasure chest.
Oh, great. Thanks. Yeah. Appreciate you.
Dusty, also now banned from schools. Whether you're listening on 1080 AM, watching along on youtube.com/1080 AM The Fan, or twitch.tv/1080 AM The Fan, we appreciate you. We love you. Thank you for hanging out with us on this wonderful, wonderful Wednesday.
Wait, you said also.
I thought we just assumed I was.
All right.
Hasn't been in the operating assumption.
Okay. Yeah.
What was the text you sent me the other night?
Oh yeah, I did. I did. I sent that to you. I saw on Instagram. There, on Instagram, it. I can't even read it. Yeah. I cannot even read it. It was a joke, and it was about Danny covering up his crimes, and he just admitted all of it. So
it is what it is.
That's how it happened.
Let's dive into some Super Bowl stuff because it's Wednesday of Super Bowl week and we haven't.
Let's get even more weird.
Because my God, there's a million things to dive into, regardless of Travis Kelce being asked. I mean, some ludicrous questions, but also did you see his face when he got asked about the referee one?
Yeah. And look, I understand there is that element of like, dude, there's a lot of big J journalists that are taking this far too seriously. In opening night, it has become a joke. It absolutely has. It has. And I think a lot of the jokes are okay, right? Like, Tom Brady getting proposed to. It was like that was years ago, right? There is a point, though, where you do draw the line. And, a lot of the big J journalists are like, I can't believe it. It's not just these questions. It's like, no. Patrick Mahomes being asked, so many people have helped you get here. Who's your favorite ref? And then Travis Kelce getting the ref questions. Like, I mean, I understand what you're trying to do, but...
they're trying to get the reactions. That's what this week is.
Give it up, though.
This is viral.
Yeah, I don't like those questions. The other ones, like, get over yourselves. It's opening night. Come on. But, I mean, to ask Mahomes and Travis that, and it wasn't just like, okay, if it was one time, sure, whatever, let it slide. Both of them got it more than once, twice, 3 times, and that's where I think give those guys a little bit of grace.
Yeah, for sure. I still like to see them squirm a little bit. It was fun.
Yeah, that is true.
I'm sure they're probably both getting handed some talking points from Team PR when it comes down to that.
100%. They're not dumb.
And if you want to see whether it was Roger Goodell, the NFL Referees Association, Dude, they are
full court press.
Full court press about the Chiefs and getting calls. I mean, it is because it's got its legs, it's up, it's running, and they can't hide from it. And look, reality is the Kansas City Chiefs are a freaking dynasty. And dynasties, everybody hates them. Nobody wants them. Everybody says they're bad for sports, but you know what? They're actually great for sports because every sport has a dynasty come along. And when you have that level of winning, people want to say there's got to be something else. It can't be the coaches. It can't be the players. It can't be the front office and the roster construction. It's got to be something else.
I like to go yes and.
Yeah, yes and.
Yes and.
But when they get calls that favor them, that's what people are going to glom onto. And they'll disregard other teams getting favorable calls because referees are not human. They make mistakes. What great teams do, though, is that when you give them a sliver of hope, they just blow it wide open. That's what the Chiefs are really good at. It's like the missed calls, they happen for both teams. It's that the Chiefs make you pay every single damn time. And that's what makes people upset, is that you can't miss that call because of what the result is going to be. Because we all know what the result is going to be. They're going to make the plays that are going to win a game for them. And that's not to say that if you went down and you wanted to Zapruder film every single game that the Chiefs have played, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of calls that were missed that didn't benefit the Chiefs and favored the other team. It's just the other team wasn't good enough to slam that door shut.
Mm-hmm. But it's more fun this way.
It is more fun this way. We like the conspiracies.
Well, and, I'm one of those guys that is typically...
The hell am I doing defending the Chiefs?
Once a dynasty starts and whatnot, we get a few years into it, I'm typically one of those first guys that is like, F this team. I can't stand them. I'm so tired of them. That has not happened to me with these Chiefs. I'm not quite sure why, but I just find them completely enjoyable. And it's not like the Patriots. It's not like the old Spurs. It's not like even the Bulls or the old Cowboys and Niners from the 80s. I just, like I said, Celtics and Lakers from the 80s. I typically start to stray away from the dynasties, but these guys, I still enjoy them terribly.
Yeah, I do too.
And I feel like I'm in the minority there.
Vilifying the Chiefs is just become the popular thing to do.
I've been doing it for a lot longer, okay? I'm going to hipster this.
You're fine. Yeah, you're fine. You were ahead of this, man.
Well, yes, you have your own reasons.
Damn right.
Mr. Raiders fan.
Indeed.
Yeah. But, I mean...
Hate by birth.
There are some things that you go, like this texture, Vancouver 4 text line. 0 holding calls in 3 Super Bowls. Kind of hard to look the other way on that one. Right? Like... I mean,
pretty impressive.
Yeah. Well, pretty impressive. Impossible. Impossible.
And yet,
it hasn't happened, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, they are really good at holding.
How about
like every offensive lineman holds? Are you good at it or not?
Well, how about this? This does not come down to holding at all for the Kansas City Chiefs, and this comes to us courtesy of Dan Orlovsky. The Chiefs have not allowed a 100-yard rusher in any of their last 18 playoff games dating back to 2019.
That's pretty good.
That has nothing to do with offensive holding.
No, pretty good.
No, it doesn't.
Pretty good.
Has to do with good defense. Oh, which, by the way, this is probably their best defense that they've had in their playoff run.
You know what? Somebody's ready to fire up this text right now. It's probably going to come in 3, 2, 1. But they're going to be like, well, yeah, because all the big runs were called back because of holding calls.
Yeah.
You know? Couldn't get 100 yards because they call holding. And
wait while I
adjust
my tinfoil hat.
I would be interested to look at the rushing rankings of those teams, because it feels like there hasn't been a ton of great running teams, particularly in the AFC over the last couple of years, that have been in the playoffs. Like I think when you think about the running teams over the last 4 or 5 years, it's mostly in the NFC, isn't it?
I would say so. Yeah,
I mean, I guess they've hit the Bills clearly
but again,
a couple times.
That was just the first thing that popped in my head. I was like,
but the Bills always had an inability to run the football until this year. I would say Baltimore is a really good running team. Pittsburgh is a really good running team.
To not allow a single 100-yard rusher since 2019 in the playoffs.
That's aggressive.
When I hear a stat like that, my first thought in my brain is not to try to downplay it, but think why. And so the first thing I thought of was how many good rushing teams are there in the AFC, or have there been in the AFC over the last couple of years?
Well, it's also teams that
in the
become
playoffs
one-handed, though, right? Like Baltimore is a really good running team, but where they end up having their Achilles over the, since 2019 until we've seen tremendous growth of Lamar Jackson throwing the football, but they were not as polished of a passing team, right? And so I think that's where they had fatal flaws, all the teams that ran the ball very effectively in the AFC, whereas in the NFC you have more balance, right? And whether that is Detroit or San Francisco over the last handful of years, I think that when you talk about the teams that become a little bit one-handed, that has been a criticism of the Philadelphia Eagles. Don't tell Jalen Hurts that in the NFC Championship game, though, because he threw the hell out of the football then.
It's one of those things where, too, those Chiefs teams, we talk about like the differences between like the first and where they're at now, were significantly more offensive oriented, and they were running scores up on teams to the point where they couldn't run the ball. Yeah. So I think there's a little bit of, yes, their defense was very good at limiting rushing totals,
right?
But I think the thing that was really implicated was, number one, a lot of the teams they're playing in the playoffs haven't, particularly in the AFC, haven't been loaded rushing attacks, and two, their offense was significantly more prolific in that period. I think that would put teams under the bind.
Yeah, so they're probably passing a bunch more. I think one other thing about the Chiefs too throughout their run is that we've all heard the stat of the last couple of years of how many times the Chiefs have come back from a one-score deficit or whatever in the fourth quarter to come back and win. They have a tremendous record.
Double-digit deficits. Yeah.
So in this one, when the Chiefs lead early, since the start of 2002, they are 29-0 straight up when leading after the first quarter. Their last loss came in the 2022
I don't
AFC
even know what the sound was.
Game.
It just came out of me. It just stunned shock.
29-0 straight up in their last 29 games
so
when leading after the first quarter.
Well, I think
and that's not just playoffs; that's regular season too.
That's so dumb.
But
like,
that's still just
the volatility in the NFL is so crazy.
Mind-boggling, isn't it?
To be 29-0 in that instance, my God.
Well, I think circling back to the running game and being able to stifle the running game, I think there is something too, though, where the Chiefs will load up against the run against really good run teams. They have had a deficiency in defending tight ends. They are not very good at defending tight ends. I think that's going to be an important part of the Super Bowl too, is that you have Dallas Goedert, who is a damn fine tight end, and he may have a big game for the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl, because if they are going to pay so much attention to Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts, and you're going to load the box and say they will not beat us running the football. If you look at where teams have had a lot of success, whether it is, the Baltimore Ravens and their tight ends went for 125 yards. The Bengals, their tight ends went for 151 against them. And I'm just talking tight ends, not receivers, like their tight ends alone. The 49ers, when they played them, 92 yards receiving from the tight ends alone. You had, Brock Bowers. He had a day against them. He went for like 145 against the Chiefs. That's where their deficiency is defending the tight end. And if you're going to load the box, that's where you're going to have success. Because, look, defending Philly, right, you're going to take away A.J. Brown, you're going to take away Devontae Smith. And if you're going to focus your back end on those two guys, and you're going to say our front seven has got to focus on loading up to stop the run, you're creating good matchups with a tight end, and that could be a huge factor in this game. Is Dallas Goedert going to be the guy who gets he gets one-on-one coverage, and two, easy throws for Jalen Hurts, right? Jalen Hurts isn't having to push the ball down the field. He's having to, watch to where the defense is committing, and then boom, get your easy throw to Goddard, the tight end. He could be a massive factor in this game.
I'm going to have to dive into the Super Bowl props here either tomorrow or Friday. And I bet you...
see what his over-under receiving yards are?
Yeah, that's one of the ones I have an interest in. The one that I saw that popped up was Harrison Butker's field goal attempts, 1.5. And I thought, in the Super Bowl, that seems like a low number for what is expected to be a low-scoring game for points at a premium. I feel like Vegas is going to get me with that one. That one feels like it's gonna reach out to my soul.
A little too good
Right
to be true.
now, your Goddard receiving prop is 60.
Higher than I thought.
You got plus 160 or 116 at 60 or more, and then he's at minus 140 at 50 yards.
See, I would have thought 45 right out of the gate. That was the number I was going to go with, but that's probably too low considering what you just said, which is probably why it's at 60. That's a good number. We're gonna have to put our best group together for some Super Bowl props here later this week. But coming up next, the reason you're not in studio is because you're down in Eugene for signing day.
Yeah.
Let's get to some signing day news, notes, and stories coming out of Eugene. Coming up here next year on Danny and Dusty, Danny the Fan. Let's see here. Down in Eugene for the Oregon Ducks in National Signing Day. The reason he's not in studio now.
Yes.
You were a part of the process this morning, as it were, is on the Ducks' YouTube.
Yeah, it was a fun show, man. Mike Jorgensen and I did a live show in an hour straight. It's on like the Oregon football Twitter feed. It's on Go Ducks YouTube. And we sat down with Marshall Malco, who's the chief of staff, kind of the brains behind the recruiting operation and oversees the recruiting operation for Oregon. Dan Lanning, Tosh Lapoy, and Will Stein. So we got both coordinators, a head coach, and the chief of staff coming on to talk recruiting and kind of how this process all shakes out, and took a deep dive into the class that Oregon brought in. And look, today is technically National Signing Day, but for Oregon, everything was signed, sealed, and delivered back in December. So there were really no surprises here, but it was the first time that we got to hear coaches kind of gush over the crew that they got, and I thought it was really interesting to kind of hear, the thoughts of Will Stein on DeCorian Moore and Cooper Perry, the two wide receivers that they got in this class, and he likes the physicality that they run with, and they got some versatility, I think, was kind of the name of this recruiting class. And 2025, as Malkos told us today, was like, it was small, and we valued high quality prospects over the big numbers. And when we think of the transfer portal and you think of everything that's going into the world of college football, where it's kind of a revolving door, Oregon had a small class this year because their retention is really high. I mean, there's not a lot of guys that are the premier players on the roster that are leaving, and they made no bones about it. They covet the guys that they've recruited over the last handful of cycles to step in and play big roles for them this year. So it was a slow day. I mean, really, the biggest name and signee of the day was Michigan landed Ty Haywood, the four-star offensive lineman, who's an Alabama flip. Dude, have you seen this Michigan recruiting class on the offensive line?
Pretty decent.
Yeah. They went and they said, yeah, we got we got Joe Moore award-winning offensive line. We're just going to reload and protect Bryce Underwood, their coveted 5-star quarterback, with a dominant offensive line crew. So Michigan not going away, man, not going away. But signing day, it has a very weird feel to it now. It's interesting. February signing day, not as big as what December is now.
Do you feel like this is the way it should go, or do you feel like the signing day should just kind of be moved back to the December period? Or should it just be all of it should be at when the season comes to an end?
Yeah, the December signing period, I think, is good because a lot of these guys, they know where they want to go, right? They know exactly. They don't want to mess around with it. They want to be able to get this thing out of the way. And for a lot of the guys, they want to get on campus sooner. So, the February 5th signing day was always like, all right, teams were always, circling and vulturing, and they were going to end up coming through and pluck guys out of your recruiting class that, they knew where they wanted to go early. With the transfer portal open now, guys can leave whenever they want. I think signing period should be like, I think they should have one really, if a kid wants to sign before his senior season and he already knows and he's like a high-level recruit, I think they should do that. But
just get it done.
Yeah, I don't dislike having the two signing periods, but what I think needs to change is like this signing period in December was right before the conference championship games,
Yeah.
And you had a lot of schools that are trying to land their recruits and make sure guys get pen to paper as you're preparing for your conference championship games. I mean, I think that's a little off. Maybe you can bump it back a week, but it's not perfect. But I think it's the world we live in now, and I think most of the schools are okay with it because you're not having to, keep that full court press on through December and January, and you can use that January signing period to start working on 2026. And that was something that, it got picked up. I saw Duck Territory had a post about this is, Marshall Malco came on and he was talking about, they're already starting to work towards 2026. And he said something that I was intrigued by. And, when Duck Territory kind of picked it up and wrote an article about it, I was like, okay, yeah, there's a lot more people. He said that the West Coast talent in high school, so the high school talent in 2026, he said was good enough. It's like national championship caliber talent on the West Coast.
Oh.
And when is the last time that we have been able to say that about, the talent out West? Because we've seen such a drop from, you know this as a USC guy.
Yeah.
Those national championship teams were built on West Coast guys.
Yeah. I mean, you take a look at whether it's Reggie Bush, whether it's Clay Matthews, Ray Maualuga, Brian Cushing. I mean, you go up and the Khalil brothers, like you go up and
Matt
down.
Leinart, Mark Sanchez,
Palmer, they're all. Yeah. And it's not even just West Coast guys. It's just L.A. or greater L.A. Like the greatness of those teams, like Troy Polamalu is like the one guy who is from Southern Oregon. Otherwise it's basically just L.A. teams or San Diego teams. Like they just the stranglehold that school had on that region at the time was insane. But the talent that came out over like a 4 to 8 year period out of the LA area. I mean, D'Anthony Thomas was one of those guys that left the LA area and opened the door for Oregon to get into that pipeline. And like that it's been a little while. I think COVID probably played a big part in the development cycle being super disruptive, but it definitely feels like it's back as you look at the guys that are coming out of the Boscos, the Servites, the big time
Mater Days,
yeah.
De La Salle is back, and I think that there's also an element of, for the longest time, there was this participation numbers in football especially had dipped.
Yep.
And they had dipped out west significantly.
It's coming back.
We're starting to see that kind of creep back up again, and there's a lot more. And when you talk about West Coast recruiting, it's California. Washington is starting to pump out more and more talent. Nevada and Arizona are in that too. And Utah. I mean, you think of Arizona, Utah, Nevada. Those states have pumped out a lot more Division I talent than in years past. And then you add that to California. You have Washington, which that state has taken a big leap forward with population growth. You're now starting to see all of those families that were moving out west. They're starting to have kids, and they're starting to breed athletes, and that's a good sign for football out west moving forward.
The old D1 baby situation. I was just looking at all of the collective recruiting rankings, and they have them in different areas, but in the top 15, the Big Ten has 5. Yep. They have 5 teams in the top 15 recruiting rankings, and it's some version of Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, somewhere between 3 and 7. And then Penn State, USC between 12 and 15.
Yeah. And look, I think this is going to be, the biggest difference between what life was like in the Pac-12 and what life will be like in the Big Ten for Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA is I went back and I looked at the last true Pac-12 recruiting class, right? That would be the class of 2023. In 2023, the Pac-12 had 5 teams recruit in the top 30. 8 of them were in the top 45, okay, of the entire country. So 8 of the 12 in the top 45 of the country. In the Big Ten this year, there are 9 teams recruiting in the top 30. 9 of them. There are 12 teams recruiting in the top 45 in the country. So the uptick in the level of talent, the level of play, we talk about the separation of the Power 4 and the power vacuum of the SEC and the Big Ten. You were seeing that in the recruiting rankings, and everybody is going to be lifted up. When you have 12 teams in the top 45 recruiters in the country, like that, you have 18 teams in the Big Ten right now. That is 12 of your 18 are upper echelon recruiters. And so, Purdue is still lagging way behind. Northwestern, because of their academic restrictions, are way behind. But everybody else is right in that mix, because if you look at, right outside of 45, okay, 46 is UCLA, 47 is Indiana, 50 is Minnesota.
Yeah.
So that jumps to 15 of your 18 are all in the top 50 recruiters in the country.
That's a tough place.
No bottom feeders.
Yeah, tough place to be if you're at the bottom of that.
Yeah.
All right, coming up next, let's pivot back to the Portland Trailblazers who...
Wait, there is one guy I want to mention.
Yeah.
Oregon State did pick up a 4-star quarterback recruit. Tristan, I think it's Tia. Think about Oregon State. When you get Malik Murphy from Duke as your stopgap, now you have a guy that you can sit there and growth and development, if that's where they're going. I don't want to sit there and just ignore that Oregon State, they got a good recruit at quarterback here on this day of signing day, and that'll go and pay dividends for them if they can grow and develop their quarterback position.
Good place to be.
Yep.
Coming up next, we'll just dive back into the Portland Trailblazers in this ridiculous 9-1 run. How crazy should you get? We'll get into that and more, but here's the Big Kahuna Sports and Update now.
You mind if I have some of your tasty beverage to wash this down?
It's a Super Week edition of Danny and Dusty.
Brought to you by George McCoy at WarrenAllen.com.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, the Trailblazers have won 5 straight and 9 of their last 10. They're off tonight, but they host the Kings tomorrow. Who knows what the roster will look like, though? The NBA trade deadline approaching tomorrow afternoon at noon Pacific. There has been some activity ahead of tomorrow's deadline. The biggest one, ESPN Shams Charania reporting the Bucks trading small forward Chris Middleton, rookie guard A.J. Johnson, and a pick swap to the Wizards in exchange for forward Kyle Kuzma, forward Patrick Baldwin Jr., and second-round compensation. Over in college ball, Oregon men's hoops back at it this afternoon. Losers of 3 straight, and they've fallen out of the top 25 now. In Ann Arbor to face Michigan, 3:30 tip on the Big Ten Network. Coverage right here on The Fan starts at the top of the hour. Following Danny and Dusty, the Ducks are 7-point dogs. And Matt Zenitz of CBS Sports reporting Ohio State planning to promote receivers coach Brian Hartline to offensive coordinator. Oregon OC Will Stein had been considered a top candidate. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust at the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand on the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Did you score a smart speaker over the holidays? Just ask it to play 1080 The Fan.
It's official. The Portland Trailblazers are the hottest team in the NBA right now. And one of the questions that kept coming in last night as I was doing the postgame show was, play-in? No play-in. Play-in bad. Play-in mucho bad. Remember, the Portland Trailblazers still owe their lottery-protected pick to the Chicago Bulls through 2028.
Okay, question.
Would
it be the worst thing in the world if that pick had to convey to Chicago?
You were throwing away an asset.
Yeah.
Throwing away an asset when you absolutely need it. Absolutely need it.
But wouldn't that open up the ability to trade future firsts? Because
sure. But you're now out of an
hamstrung.
asset.
Yeah.
They're out of an again, this is a bird in hand versus two in the bush. I would much rather continue to kick this can down to 2028 and then hopefully
not make the playoffs until 2028?
I mean,
cuz that's when the pick conveys, right?
Yeah.
So what you're saying is you don't make the playoffs until 2028?
Yeah, I mean, that's 2 years of building. You could end up in the play-in and not in the playoffs.
So it only conveys if you
trust
make
the process,
final.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But
or if you make it squarely into the playoffs, like you're a top 6 seed, then it's like, okay, it doesn't matter because the value you're giving up is that. But I mean, you're still giving up a first-round pick.
Yeah.
You don't want to give up first-round picks if you can control it. And they can quite literally control this.
See, and that's where you and I may differ in this, where it's like if I'm not in the Cooper, Flag, Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey mix, I'm like, or top 5 is what you're saying. Top 7 would be great, right? If you're not going to be in that, then I would say let's why not roll the dice on a play-in, have that pick convey, and then see where we're at.
Because I don't think it does anything for you.
Yeah.
It's a feel-good and $1 million injection into the owner's pockets.
But you need the star. You need the star player.
And
I want any way that you can get closer to get that, and I don't know if you get it in like 10 or 12. So
the flip side of that is Giannis, where he's picked. Jokic, where he's picked. Jalen Williams, where he's picked. SGA, where he's picked. Don't get me wrong. I am very much in team, like, number 1 overall pick is the best spot for you to be. That's where you get guys. But you just have to nail picks where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
Which they've done a fantastic job of the last handful of years in those, late lottery pick.
Well, I think hold on. I think they actually they've done a really good job in the draft under Joe Cronin, and I'd say
that their draft record for the last couple of years has been
pretty
good.
I think it is, but it's to your point. It's really hard to get to find that talent there, and you're not if you're in 10 to 12. And the Blazers, they haven't been there. Like if they were 7th overall last year, Donovan Clingan was a great pick. Right?
Yeah, I don't think anybody's mad about that right now, right?
Oh, no, yeah.
No. Well, but you're talking in that 10 to 12 range, Russ?
Yeah.
Where
Yeah, that's where it gets tough.
Yeah.
Sure,
but then again, like you have to say it's a different regime because this regime has not, which they have done a really Toumani Camara, man. Like that is a guy that they coveted in that draft.
The players they've identified and who they've gone after.
And they had him thrown into the DeAndre Ayton, Yusuf Nurkic trade.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of that foresight. And Danny, you said this right when that deal happened. You said Kamara is the guy that they want that they think could have potential long term.
Yeah,
and
they essentially demanded that he be in that deal.
And so I'll say they've done an okay job, but look, hitting on those guys is really stinking hard.
Yeah.
And I think what you're trying to say is the more chances you have to swing that bat, the better off you're going to be. But I think that eventually, if the Blazers aren't making the playoffs until 2028, I think that there's bigger issue there.
Sure.
And and that is, by the way, when the pick conveying to Chicago turns into 2 second-round picks instead of a lottery-protected first-round pick. And I think that would be a big issue. And so if you're not going to, and that's where I say, if you're not going to get the star, just go ahead, let that pick convey now, and then go back to the drawing board. But it's different strokes for different folks.
Yeah, I would never give up a pick that I didn't have to give up.
Yeah, but you're eventually going to have to if your roster turns around.
But it's because you make if you're making a natural progression towards working in the playoffs, great. This is not a natural progression to working in the playoffs. This is a fun run.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're still missing the gooey center of what they are, you know.
Yes.
Coming up next, it's next man up at Ohio State as they name their next offensive coordinator here on Danny Dusty, Danny the Fan.
A champion.
Quick note as we get out of here today. Yesterday, Dustin and I talked about the potential change at the offensive coordinator position for the Ohio State Buckeyes as Chip Kelly left to be the offensive coordinator for the Las Vegas Raiders. And internally, Brian Hartline, former wide receiver and wide receiver development guru for Ohio State, is going to move up a rung on the ladder and take over as OC.
That is great for him. He's one of the best recruiters in all of college football at the wide receiver position, developer of talent. I think people forget he was a co-offensive coordinator in title with Chip Kelly, and I know there was a little bit of consternation when we talked about this yesterday that sometimes these reports might just be some analysts throwing names out there, and it gets kind of aggregated as, report. Brian Hartline taking over that role as the offensive coordinator, it eases the panic of Oregon fans saying, well, is Ohio State just going to come over the top and give a bag to Will Stein and pull him out of there? I could tell you, listening to Will Stein today talk about how excited he was about the offense and everybody that was coming in the class of 2025 and what lies ahead for this Oregon program. He's 10 toes down here in Eugene, and now Brian Hartline gets a shot as a play caller. And when you have weapons like they have at Ohio State, makes your job a little bit easier.
Yeah, the development pipeline becomes a lot more narrow, as it were. It's a very straight path. You're not exactly Shawshanking that thing and having to crawl through a mile of poo.
Yeah.
It's a pristine pipeline.
Yeah, it is. So, Duck fans can breathe easy. And look, that's one of the premier jobs as a play caller in college football. But
play caller for national champion is a good spot to be.
Yeah, and they're promoting from within. So we'll see how that works out for the Ohio State Buckeyes moving forward with Brian Hartline as their OC. I don't know. It's kind of weird. We don't have a Blazer game tonight. They get.
Bro, they had 3 and 4 days. I got home last night at 1 a.m, and I looked at my wife when I got home. I was like, no game tomorrow, thank God.
Well, they'll get back on it tomorrow as they take on the Sacramento Kings. And for us today, it's no prime time. Yep. You do not have 4 hours of power with Isaac and Suk.
And we'll be back tomorrow at noon with the NBA trade deadline coming to a close.
Oh, buddy, let's go. Today, we head to the Chrysler Center. Ann Arbor, Michigan is where we head next as the Oregon Ducks hit the road for number 24, Michigan. A 3:30 tip. We're handing it off to Joey Mack with pregame of Oregon versus Michigan basketball. We'll see you tomorrow from noon to 3. Have a great Wednesday. See you Thursday right here on The Fan.
Bye.
Hey, I've got a question for you. Are your old windows costing you money on your energy bills? Or maybe your bathroom's stuck in a time warp and needs a serious